Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters,
وعليكم
welcome to
السلام.
today's session. I hope you are all fine. And if you are ready, let's make a good start for today's session, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Yes, dear brothers and sisters, in today's session, we will talk about some of the reasons of the illusion of contradiction in the Quran. Let me accept some other students. Just they appeared in the waiting room. Okay. Yeah, I think they are right now joining the class. Yes, dear brothers. Right now, let's have a look at this important topic while talking about Mushkilul Quran and from this general science. When we look at the branch of Mushkilul Quran, Muhimul Ikhtilaf wa Tanaqud, that means the illusion of contradiction in the Quran. One of the most important things to focus would be this. أسباب توهم الاختلاف والتناقض في القرآن. The reasons of the illusion of contradiction in the Quran. This is one of the major parts of this science. So when we analyze such reasons why people are confused about the teachings of many verses of the Quran, then as a result, after this confusion, why they start thinking that the Quran contradicts itself. There are many verses of the Quran appear to contradict each other, etc. Why do they have such kind of illusion of contradiction? There are many, as they are listed in these 2 pages that I will share with you. But today, I will turn your attention for the first one. What is the first one we can consider? نقصان المعرفة بأصول التفسير وعلوم القرآن. So the lack of knowledge about the principles or about the fundamentals of the tafsir science and the sciences of the Quran, such as mentioned below. So here, this is the first reason. When you see people, they do not have great knowledge. If they are not well versed in the principles of tafsir, in the fundamentals of the tafsir, or if they are not knowledgeable enough about the sciences, different sciences of the Quran, you may see them easily fail to understand many verses of the Quran, even start thinking that these verses contradict each other, and this is the indication of their lack of knowledge. So today we will talk about this first one. For example, yeah, there are listed many, but let's look at the last one. I have listed only the 8 such reasons. The 8th one, the last one I'm showing on the screen is this. نقصان المعرفة بقواعد دقائق اللغة العربية. Yani that's what we dealt in the last sessions. Yani what could be the reason of the illusion of contradiction in the Quran? One of them is this: the lack of knowledge about the details of Arabic language, the language of the Quran. If they do not know good enough about the language of the Quran, that may lead them to consider that the Quran contains lots of contradiction. This is just indication of their lack of knowledge about the details of Arabic language. If you remember, for example, we dealt about this word, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. If they do not know what to understand from this verse, they may fail to understand. And another verse, remember, while dealing with this, while indicating that lack of knowledge, that reason of the illusion of contradiction. Another verse was this: وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوءٍ. So when they misunderstand these verses, what does it result? it results in considering that the Quran contains contradiction, as we dealt with that in the previous sessions. But amongst all of such reasons, okay, we will deal today with the first reason. Yani the lack of knowledge about the sciences of the Quran, first of all. Okay, for example, I have listed some of the sciences here. الناسخ والمنسوخ, the abrogated verses and the abrogating verses, then the abrogated verses. If somebody does not know this, those people easily fail to understand many verses of the Quran. So another one here, there are many mutashabihatul Quran, asbabun nuzul, yani the sciences of the Quran are many as listed here. One of them is the reasons of the revelation, and many others. For example, al-hadf, the omitted words here. This is a science of the Quran. Have a look at it. But we will turn your attention in today's specific topic for these two: an-nasikh wal-mansukh and al-aam wal-khass. So to be able to understand the main teaching of some of the verses of the Quran. So what would be this about? We will talk about today, dear brothers and sisters, about this verse. We will try to understand how to avoid misconception misconception in these verses. Some people consider, or they have the illusion between this verse وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ, and between this verse وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. They think that there is contradiction between these verses, and we will try to understand why there is no contradiction in today's session between these verses and some related verses of the Quran. So that requires to be able to deal with these verses, to be able to understand these verses accurately. Then we are responsible to have a look at this reason of the contradiction. One of the reasons of the contradiction, reasons of the illusion of the contradiction in the Quran is this: there are abrogating verses and abrogated verses, and there is one of the sciences of the Quran, there are al-aam verses, the verses that give general statements, and there are al-khas verses. There are some other verses, they talk about a specific group of issues. So to be able to refute the claim of contradiction between these two verses, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ, and the other verse, وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ, then we will get the benefits of these two sciences, الناسخ والمنسوخ and العام والخاص. Dear brothers and sisters, do you see what I share on the screen? Everything is clear on the screen for you? Okay, yes. Then let's continue. A basic definition of al-nasikh wal-mansukh. As you might know, this is there are verses of the Quran revealed at the beginning of Islamic history, but later on these verses were changed. Their judgments are changed or even cancelled, right? And this is the verses of the Quran whose judgments are changed or cancelled are named mansukh verses, yani abrogated verses. And the other verse which was revealed in the next occasion, in the next stage, okay, which abrogated the previous judgment, this is named an-nasikh, the abrogating verses. So without going to the details of this an-nasikh wal-mansukh, just remember one of them. For example, alcoholic drinks. Alcoholic drinks have been prohibited in 4 stages. And then in the first, second, and third verses, when they were revealed, alcoholic drinks The alcoholic drinks were mentioned in the first 3 verses, but it was not prohibited. These verses were not giving the judgment of prohibition about the alcoholic drinks, but when the verse number 90 from Surah Al-Ma'idah was revealed, and it abrogated the judgments of the first 3 verses mentioning the alcoholic drinks, saying that stay away from alcoholic drinks and gambling in the verse number 90 of Surah Al-Ma'idah. This verse is an-nasikhu, abrogating the other previous 3 verses which made mention of the alcoholic drinks without giving the prohibition. They were abrogated verses. In the previous quarters, we focused on this, and as you might remember, those students who attended those classes, they might remember the details. So let me not go to the details of that topic then. But today, al-ammu wal-khassu should be something new for all of the students, either new students who just joined in this quarter these sessions, or the previous students who were following our classes in Mushkilul Quran or Ulumul Quran, Tafsir, etc. So here, what is al-am? Again, why do we deal with that right now is this. To be able to refute the illusion of contradiction between those 2 verses. وَلَا تَنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ, which means, don't, oh man, Muslim man, don't marry mushrik ladies until they believe, until they convert to Islam. Don't marry them. This is the general command. And then you see other verse, okay? It gives the 5th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah. It gives the permission for Muslim man, saying that وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. And this verse gave, the 5th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah gave permission for Muslim men to marry Christian and Jewish ladies, but independent and chaste Jewish and Christian ladies. So there appear to be contradiction between these verses. How to avoid this misconception, how to refute this, we need to learn about, first of all, al-am wal-khassu, this specific Quranic science. Amongst the sciences of the Quran, al-am wal-khassu, what are they? Let's have a look at right now some of the basic definition. So, قال السيوطي العام لفظ يستغرق الصالح له من غير حصر. As-Suyuti said, Al-Am, the general, is a term that encompasses what is good, what is applicable for it without any limitation. So, without going to the details of definition here on the screen, I would like to define it through the example. For example, look at this, what we have studied before. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. When we analyze the structure of that verse, the 2nd verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, we understand that this is the general judgment. Okay, it says this is the book about which there is no any doubt, no any kind of doubt. This is the general statement which is named Al-Am, yani Al-Hukmul Am. There is the general statement here in this verse. So to be able to understand this verse of the Quran, there are many things that we studied in the last two weeks, as you might remember. So this is one of the example of al-am. Here is another example. For example, let's look at, yani to understand the definition of al-am. Some other examples are given here in the file. Please go to the details of them by yourself. In general, al-am means the statements which is giving very general judgment about the things. So this is al-am in summary. So what is al-khassu, for example? Al-Bazdawi defined it. You go to the details by yourself, inshallah. I'm skipping some of the parts written on the screen. He says, كل لفظ وضع لمعنى واحد على انفراد وقطع المشاركة. So, Al-Bazdawi said, every word that is put for a single meaning alone, according to the separation and according to being disconnected from the participation, from the collaboration with larger group sharing the common attributes. What is the meaning of this? It would be understood easier when we look at the example of this. For example, to understand what is al-khassu. Let's have a look at this verse of Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah Ta'ala said, وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوءٍ. Remember, this verse is revealed in the format of giving news, but it's giving the command, in fact, giving the prohibition, in fact, as we dealt with that in the last sessions. So accordingly, the meaning is this: and divorced women shall wait, they must wait before marrying another man for 3 menstrual periods. So this is what we see here is what? There is here al-hukmul am. This is ayatun ammatun. It says divorced woman. That includes every kind of divorced woman. Okay? This verse contains general statement without excluding any type of specific type of divorced woman. It said divorced women, whomsoever they are, they should wait for 3 menstrual periods. They should wait for the iddah before marrying another man. This is the duration. They must wait. They cannot get married with another man until this time is over. So we see again another example of al-hukmul am, ayatun ammatun. This is the example. And then let's look at al-khassu, the specific. Okay, al-khassu means the specific, more specific. So 49th verse of Surah Al-Ahzab is not having the general judgment, but the specific judgment. So this verse is ayatun khassatun. So to be able to understand this issue in the Islamic law, I mean, how much time the divorced woman shall wait for themselves until marrying another man. What is the duration, exact duration for any divorced woman? To understand this issue in Islamic law, we have to look at the issue from wider perspective. After reading this al-hukmul am in this verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 228, okay, then we have to look at the al-hukmul khas as well. There are some specified groups of people amongst these divorced women. So who are they? For example, one of them is mentioned. One group of them is mentioned here in this verse. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نكحتم المؤمنات ثم طلقتموهن من قبل أن تمسوهن فما لكم عليهن من عدة تعتدونها. So this is what we see here is what? Ayatun khassatun. So it gives some details about the divorced woman, saying that, and all you who believe, when you marry believing woman and then divorce them before you touch them, before you have sexual intercourse with them, there is no any iddah, there is no any divorce prescribed period to be waited for you to count concerning them. So those women, for example, again, those women are normally addressed in the first verse that we recited about the issue. وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوء. Divorced women shall wait before marrying another man for 3 menstrual periods. This general judgment, it was the general judgment, but a group of them amongst these al-mutallaqatu, amongst these divorced women, a specific group of them has been specified. Their issue, their situation has been specified and should be acted according to this specific judgment mentioned in the 49th verse of Surah Al-Ahzab, saying that yes, they are divorced women. However, they have this specification. Uh, if they were divorced before the husband touched her, then she should not wait for this 3 menstrual periods. Exactly in the next day, in the next week, they are allowed. Those kind of divorced women, they are allowed to marry another man. Judgment has been given here. So now I think that definition through this example makes it more clear, I hope. What is al-am? What is al-khas? Am I right, dear brothers and sisters? Is there any confusion about the definition of al-am and al-khas? Is it understood? What is al-am and what is
Yes.
al-khas? If you couldn't understand it fully, please wait. Let's go to the continuation of this example. It would be more clear, I hope. So another example, for example, look at the 4th verse of Surah At-Talaq. وَأُولَاتُ الْأَحْمَالِ أَجَلُهُنَّ أَنْ يَضَعْنَ حَمْلَهُنَّ. So this verse, okay, this verse is giving judgment about a specific group of women. Who are they? They could be either divorced women while they are pregnant. They are pregnant, but they are divorced, okay? Or this ulatul ahmali could be, first of all, for those divorced women, and even for those women, they are pregnant, but their husband died, their husband passed away. 2 groups of women, they are included in the judgment of this 4th verse of Surah At-Talaq, if you look at the whole content of the verse. So, what do we understand here? Again, this verse is talking about what? This verse is talking about divorced women. About them, there was a judgment mentioned before in the 228th verse of Surah Al-Baqarah. It gave the judgment for them, general judgment. They should wait until, they should wait for themselves during 3 menstrual periods before marrying another man. This judgment was there, but this was the al-hukm al-amm. This is ayatun ammatun. But here, this verse, the 4th verse of Surah At-Talaq, informs us about a specific issue. About the divorced woman, there is a specification mentioned here. What is this? They are divorced women, but differently from the other types of divorced women, they are the pregnant ones. So a different rule applied for them. What is this? What is their iddah? Yani for how long time they should wait for themselves before marrying another man while they are pregnant, they are divorced from their husband. Okay, the father of the baby growing in the womb of the divorced woman, the husband divorced her. Okay, then what is the iddah for them? For how long they should wait until marrying another man? Here is the answer. أَنْ يَضَعْنَ حَمْلَهُنَّ. Their duration is different. What is this? And for those who are pregnant, whether they are divorced or their husbands are dead, their iddah, their prescribed period before marrying another man is until they lay down their burden, until they give birth. So this is specific. So this is basic definition of al-am wal-khas, dear brothers and sisters. And then let's learn one more term about this issue. It's this. This verse, وَأُولَاتُ الْأَحْمَالِ أَجَلُهُنَّ أَنْ يَضَعْنَ حَمْلَهُنَّ, that verse is named مُخَصِّصَةٌ. مُخَصِّصَةٌ. So this is the verse that gives specification for the general judgment mentioned before. Specifying verse. Okay? Gave a different judgment about the issue, the general issue mentioned before. Okay. So pay your attention for this important terminology in that science. Again, this 49th verse of Surah Al-Ahzab, this is also ayatun mukhassisatun. Yani this is a specifying verse. There was a general judgment mentioned before. In that verse, وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوءٍ. But this general judgment, this general this verse which contains the general judgment has been specified with some specific conditions in these two verses that we mentioned below. So accordingly, I hope, dear brothers and sisters, this topic is more clear, I hope. What is al-am? What is al-khasu? Am I right? Is there any question that you would like to ask about the definition of what is al-am and what is al-khasu, dear brothers and sisters? Please raise your hand and either give your question or make your comment. If you would like to ask any question or make any comment, please feel free. Otherwise, we will continue, inshallah, the rest of the topic after this introduction. Why did I mention this specific thing, specific science, dear brothers and sisters? To be able to jump into our topic, today's topic, to be able to deal with the issue, to be able to avoid misconception between these two verses I'm showing on the screen right now. Okay? So, if you are ready for the rest of the session, then let's continue, dear brothers. Okay. Ibrahim, brother Ibrahim, do you ask a question regarding khul?
Yes, Jazakallah khair. Wa alaikum salam.
Raise your voice to make it more clear.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I
Jazakallah khair,
understood
Ustaz.
your question that you write in the message. Khul is something different. Yani if you are asking about that specific term, it is not the agenda of today's verses. Al-khul'u is something different. If I understood the message of brother Ibrahim, let's not jump into that topic, dear brother. We don't have time to cover all these things. So, what do we mean is this? Yani, there is takhsis, in other words. There is ayatun mukhassisatun. There are verses of the Quran, ayatun mukhassisatun. Some verses of the Quran giving some specification for the general issues, general judgments. And then what could be understood from the previous examples is this. Okay? يعني أن التخصيص صرف العام عن عمومه بدليل من الأدلة الشرعية يدل على ذلك. This means التخصيص, the specification, is the change of the general judgment. يعني الحكم العام, okay, the general judgment is being changed, but by مخصصة, آية مخصصة, making specification. These verses of the Quran making specification for the general judgment. Okay, this is a takhsis. This act is named a takhsis. Changing it what? From what? from its general term with the evidences of the Sharia that indicate the necessity of this change or this specification. So after realizing this issue, what is al-am, what is al-khas, what is al-takhsis, what is ayatun mukhassisatun, etc., then let's ask the question. كيف يزال توهم التعارض بين آية حرمت نكاح المشركات وآية أحلت? So accordingly, how we can refute the illusion of contradiction between the verse that prohibits Muslim men from marrying mushrik ladies and the verse which gives Muslim men to marry independent and chaste women from the people of the book, from the Christians and Jews. Here are these verses. This verse, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ. Allah Ta'ala gave this command. O Muslim men, don't marry mushrik ladies until they become mu'min, until they convert to Islam. فما تأليف هذه الآية المذكورة مع قوله تعالى والمحصنات من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم. So how we reconcile this verse with that one, which means do not which means the muhsanat woman, the independent and chaste woman from the people of the book are appropriate to marry, for it gives the permission for Muslim men to marry those women. So how we can avoid the illusion of contradiction between these verses? So if we remember the full part of this verse that gave Muslim men permission to marry independent and chaste women, it is this: تمام آية التحليل في هذا الموضوع. قال تعالى اليوم أحل لكم الطيبات وطعام الذين أوتوا الكتاب حل لكم وطعامكم حل لهم والمحصنات من المؤمنات والمحصنات من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم إذا آتيتموهن أجورهن محصنين غير مسافحين ولا متخذي أخدان. So this is the completion of that verse by means of recognizing the beginning part of this verse, saying that أُحِلَّ لَكُمْ, it has been made for you lawful, O Muslim man. What has been made for lawful for you, halal for you? Two things are mentioned. One of them is what we pay our attention: marrying muhsanat from the Christians and Jews. Who are muhsanat? So they are al-hara'irul afaif. They are independent and chaste women from the people of the book. Muslim men are allowed to marry independent chaste women, or it can be defined in more details. What is the meaning of al-afaif? Al-afifatu aniz zina. So these chaste women, what is the chastity here? What is the chastity about? Al-afifatu aniz zina. So those women from the people of the book, from Christians and Jews, who never committed the sin of zina, adultery or fornication, those kind of independent and chaste women are made for Muslims lawful to marry. So this verse is the completion of this verses, as you see on the screen, dear brothers. So then we will ask the question accordingly, dear brothers. Here's the question. فكيف يمكن لمؤمن أن ينكح نصرانية تؤمن أن المسيح ابن الله فتشرك بالله تعالى أو يهودية تؤمن أن أن عزيرا ابن الله فتشرك بالله تعالى بعد ملاحظة آية التحريم. So this is the question. So we remember the verse of prohibition. What is this? وَلَا تَنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ. There is the verse of prohibition. So after realizing that verse prohibiting Muslim men from marrying mushrik ladies, okay, how can a Muslim man marry a Christian lady who believes that Al-Masih is the son of Allah, Isa alayhi salam is the son of Allah, and then accordingly he commits the sin of shirk? And then how can a Muslim man accordingly can marry a Yahudi, a Jewish lady who believes that Uzair alayhi salam is the son of Allah? And accordingly, she also commits the sin of shirk. She is also mushrik. So the woman of the people of the book, Christian woman and Jewish woman, accordingly, they are mushrik ladies. So how can a Muslim man marry them accordingly? This is the question. Did we understand the question, dear brothers? Accordingly, did we see the illusion of contradiction between these verses? There is ayatul tahrim and there is ayatul tahleel. One verse gave permission to marry, the other verse prohibited to marry those type of ladies. Okay, so how shall we avoid misconception? How can we refute the illusion of contradiction? That's what we deal today, dear brothers. So then the answer, dear brothers, here we have for this question, for this illusion, we have several answers, several methods of avoiding this misconception. And first method is this: realizing the method of takhsis and exemption. That's why I talked about al-am wal-khassu. This is the first thing to realize about this illusion of contradiction. There is ayatun ammatun. I mean, what is this ayatun ammatun? It is this one. وَلَا تَنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ. According to this approach, according to this way of refuting the illusion, okay, let's define it accordingly. This verse is the verse that gives the general judgment. But let's have a look at the details right now. According to first method, okay, the verse of permission, the 5th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah, has specified the verse of prohibition, the 221st verse of Surah Al-Baqarah. And thus, a group of those polytheists, that means those independent chaste women, girls from Christians and Jews, have been given a special status amongst the other polytheists, amongst the other mushrik ladies, like pagans, Hindus, fire worshippers, sun worshippers, etc., as those Christians and Jews are exempted from this general prohibition of marrying polytheists. So this is basically the summary of first method, realizing al-am wal-khas between these verses. So let's have a look at the definition of Ibn Kathir about that. He says about this verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلَا تَنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنْ. He said, هذا تحريم من الله عز وجل على المؤمنين أن يتزوجوا المشركات من عبدة الأوثان ثم إن كان عمومها مرادا وأنه يدخل فيها كل مشركة من كتابية ووثنية فقد خص من ذلك نساء أهل الكتاب بقوله والمحصنات من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم إذا آتيتموهن أجورهن محصنين غير مسافحين. So basically he says, Ibn Kathir, yes, that verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, 221st verse of Surah Baqarah, it provides the prohibition. It's a prohibition from Allah for the Muslim man not to marry mushrik ladies from, for example, from the idol worshippers. However, if the Jewish ladies, if all other mushrik ladies are included in this prohibition, and that includes whom? That includes the Christians and Jews, that kind of mushrik ladies, like the idol worshippers, if they are included in that prohibition, that you see in that verse, وَلَا تَنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ. If you think that, if you are in this idea that Christians and Jews are also included in this general prohibition, then in this case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specified the situation of the people of the book with that verse. With the 5th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah. Yani basically, this is Al-Am wal-Khas. And this is the general principle of understanding the Quran. If there is any specification has been made in the Quran about a general judgment, then the interpretation should be accordingly, should be understood accordingly. That is the general way of, general principle of reciting the Quran. So let's look at the detail of this, the rest of the explanation of Ibn Kathir. Ibn Kathir says, narrating from Ali ibn Abi Talha, he said, قال علي بن أبي طلحة عن ابن عباس في قوله ولا تنكحوا المشركات حتى يؤمنن. Ali ibn Abi Talha narrated from Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma about this verse, don't marry, O Muslim men, don't marry mushrik ladies until they become mu'min. About this verse, Ibn Abbas said, istasna Allahu min dhalika nisa'a ahlil kitab. Allah exempted from this general judgment the women of the people of the book. Christian women, Jewish women, independent and chaste women from them, they have been exempted from that judgment, from that general judgment. That is the important way of understanding that there is no contradiction, because there is exemption here. So by the way, why did Ibn Kathir say here ثم إن كان عمومها مرادا? He talks about the different ideas of the people here and giving the attention of the reader for two different ideas. Yani, as you will see in the following part, inshallah, some scholars say, when Allah said وَلَا تَنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ, don't marry mushrik ladies, according to some scholars, Christians and Jews are not mushrik. There are scholars understanding the topic in that way. So according to this approach, there is no contradiction, the illusion of contradiction. This verse is talking about وَلَا تَنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ. Don't marry mushrik ladies until they become mu'min. This verse is talking about idol worshippers, Hindus, fire worshippers, sun worshippers, etc. It does not talk about the Christians and Jews because they are not mushrik. There are some scholars understanding the topic accordingly, refuting the illusion of contradiction accordingly, and Ibn Kathir points out their idea here when he says this, in kana umumuha muradan. However, if you think that if the general judgment here is meant in that verse, if it includes the Christians and Jews, then here is what you should say. There is ayatun ammatun and there is ayatun khassatun. Khassatun. That's how you can avoid this illusion of contradiction. He means to say that. So we will inshallah come to this part in the following parts. Let's go on right now. Ibn Kathir said in another part of his tafsir, An Ibn Abbasin قال, لما نزلت هذه الآية ولا تنكحوا المشركات حتى يؤمن قال فحجز الناس عنهن حتى نزلت التي بعدها والمحصنات من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم فنكح الناس نساء أهل الكتاب. So, historical explanation from Ibn Kathir, narrating from Ibn Abbas, saying that when this verse was revealed, the verse of prohibition, don't marry mushrik ladies until they become mu'min, what happened when this verse was revealed? People, the companions, started avoiding marrying Christian ladies and Jewish ladies. But it continued, that situation of the companions continued until the 5th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah was revealed, in which Allah gave permission to Muslim men to marry independent and chaste women from Christians and Jews. Then, right after that, the people, the companions, started marrying the women of the people of the book. And then gives other examples. وقد تزوج جماعة من الصحابة من نساء النصارى ولم يروا بذلك بأسا. And a great number of companions, they married the Christian ladies, women from Christians, and they did not see any problem in that, any prohibition in that. أخذا بهذه الآية الكريمة. How did not they see any problem in marrying those Christian ladies? Because of considering the teaching of that verse. وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. O Muslim man, marrying independent and chaste women from Christians and Jews are allowed for you, halal for you, by means of considering this verse. They did not see any problem of marrying with them. فجعلوا هذه مخصصة للآية التي في سورة البقرة. Then these companions considered that 5th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah as it has specified the general term which is found in this verse of prohibition. وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ. This general prohibition, don't marry mushrik ladies until they become mu'min. This general prohibition has been specified in this 5th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah, which gave the permission to marry independent and chaste women from the Christians and Jews. They say, Sahaba, the companions, considered these two verses, al-ayatul ammatu wal-ayatul khassatu. Accordingly, there is no problem. This is the issue. In qila bidukhul al-kitabiyat fi umumiha. Again, Ibn Kathir here takes our attention for the different ideas of the people. If you are going to understand the issue accordingly, if you consider that the Christians and Jews are mushrik people, and then accordingly they are included in the prohibition, if you understand the issue according to this approach of the scholars who consider them as mushrik, then accordingly they were prohibited to marry it with, okay? And then this is the issue. Then you will think about at-takhsis, the specification issue in the Quran. Yani at-takhsis is almost the same like exempting. Yani at-takhsis has been defined by Ali ibn Abi Talha as istisna. There is no difference between takhsis and istisna, in other words. This could be the same category. While talking about takhsis issue, narrating from Ibn Abbas, he defined it as exempting. Yeah, not specifying, but exempting. They are the same thing if we look at the details of the topic here. So, let's look at what Ash-Shinqiti says about the issue. He shares the same solution about the 5th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah accordingly as follows. أن هذه الآية الكريمة تخصص قوله ولا تنكحوا المشركات أي ما لم يكن كتابيات بدليل قوله والمحصنات من الذين أوتوا الكتاب وحكى ابن جرير الإجماع على هذا. Ash-Shinqiti says, yani, when you look at this verse, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ, don't marry mushrik ladies, okay? The 5th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah, وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابِ, it has specified the general prohibition in that verse. In other words, when Allah says, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ, don't marry mushrik ladies, مَا لَمْ يَكُنْ كُتَابِيَّاتِ. Okay, if they are not from the people of the book, don't marry mushrik ladies. You know, this was the teaching of that verse of prohibition, and then he mentions the ijma', the consensus. Yani, Ibn Jarir points out there is ijma' on this issue. There is ijma' of the Muslim ummah about this issue as we practice today. Don't you see many friends, dear brothers, around you? Many Muslim men married Christian ladies and Jewish ladies. Don't you see? Because of this, there is ijma on this issue. Muslim men are allowed to marry chaste and independent ladies from Jews and Christians, as you see. So let's have a look at the rest right now. وقال الرازي مشيرا إلى وحم التعارض بين هاتين الآيتين إن آية التحريم والتحليل قد تعارضتا فنقول لكل آية التحليل خاصة ومتأخرة بالإجماع فوجب أن تكون متقدمة على آية التحريم. Yani again Ibn al-Razi points out our attention for this illusion of contradiction. However, it points out another thing as well. Whenever you see the verse of giving permission, okay, لكن فنقول لكن آية التحليل خاصة ومتأخرة بالإجماع. However, he says, yes, you see the verse of prohibition. However, we say that, Al-Razi takes our attention, we say that the verse which gave the permission of marrying independent and chaste women of Christians and Jews, this has been revealed after the verse of prohibition. There is consensus on this issue. It has been revealed after that, and accordingly it has specified the general judgment in the verse of prohibition. So and it also points out attention for an-nasikh wal-mansukh in the meantime, as we will see in the rest of the file, inshallah. Let's look at the other scholars. For example, Ibn Battal, he said, وذهب جمهور العلماء إلى أن الله تعالى حرم نكاح المشركات بقوله تعالى. Yani, the majority of the scholars, they got the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited to marry mushrik ladies with this verse. وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ ثُمَّ, however, after that, استثنى من هذه الجملة نكاح نساء أهل الكتاب. However, after that, giving the general judgment, Allah exempted from this general judgment the people of the women of the people of the book. فَأَحَلَّهُنَّ فِي سُورَةِ الْمَائِدَةِ, and Allah made the marriage of those ladies from Christians and Jews halal for men, Muslim men, in this 5th verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah, when Allah says, وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابِ وَبَقِيَ سَائِرُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ عَلَى أَصْلِ التَّحْرِيمِ. However, the other mushrik ladies, other than Christians and Jews, all of the other mushrik ladies are remaining in the same category of the prohibition. So only Christian and Jewish independent and chaste ladies are exempted from the general judgment. And this is, you call it exemption or you call it takhsis. This is the same thing, in fact. As a result, they appear to be the same things. With different wordings, the scholars are talking about the same things. Either you can say Allah has specified a group of those mushrik ladies, or you can say Allah has exempted a specific group of those mushrik ladies from the general prohibition. They mean the same thing, as you might see here. So قال أبو أبيد روي هذا القول عن ابن عباس وبه جاءت الآثار عن الصحابة والتابعين وأهل العلم بعدهم أن نكاح الكتابيات حلال وبه قال مالك والأوزاعي والثوري والشافعي وعامة الفقهاء. Again here, Abu Ubaid right now turns our attention for this judgment that we collect from these ayatun ammatun and ayatun khassatun. What is the judgment that we collect? It is this. It is narrated from Ibn Abbas, and lots of other narrations come from the companions and from the at-tabi'in, from the other scholars after them. Surely marrying Christians and Jewish ladies, independent and chaste ladies from them, it is halal for Muslim men. And Imam Malik, Al-Awza'i, Al-Thawri, Al-Shafi'i, all of these imams and a great number of the other scholars, fuqaha, they got the same idea about this issue. Okay? And then look at Ibn Hajar, what he said about this. Again, it talks about the takhsis issue. About this verse of the Quran, وَلَا تَنْكِهُ الْمُشْرِكَاتَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنْ. He says, Ibn Hajar, فَالْأَكْثَرُ أَنَّهَا عَلَى الْعُمُومِ وَإِنَّهَا خُصَّتْ بِآيَةِ الْمَائِدَةِ. And a great majority of the scholars, they think that the judgment here, the general judgment of the verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, don't marry mushrik ladies, it includes the Jewish and Christian ladies in general. However, since they are mushrik, however, the issue is this, على العموم وإنها خصت. However, that verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, the verse of prohibition, has been specified with the verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah. وعن بعض السلف أن المراد بالمشركات هنا عبدة الأوثان والمجوس، حكاه ابن المنذر وغيره. وذهب الجمهور إلى أن عموم آية البقرة خص بآية المائدة، وهي قوله والمحصنات من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم فبقي سائر المشركات على أصل التحريم. Again, the same thing as we mentioned before. Here, the general statements of the scholars are mentioned again. After considering between these two verses of the Quran, there is the issue of al-am wal-khass. Then we understand. In another word, there is general judgment and there is the exemption. After considering that issue in the Quran, then we understand there is no contradiction between these verses of the Quran. dear brothers and sisters. Inshallah, this topic may be concluded in the next time, inshallah, because right now I only could cover one of the ways of refuting the illusion of contradiction between these verses by means of considering the teachings of this science from the ulum al-Quran, al-am wal-khas. As we have shown here, a great number of the scholars, by means of considering these issues in the Quran, they avoided the misconception here. However, there are other methods as well. For example, let's conclude it, inshallah, in the next occasion quickly. Another method of avoiding this misconception, refuting this illusion, is this. You consider there is ayatun nasikhatun and ayatun mansukhatun between these verses. Some of the scholars mention this reality between these verses. And however, this which verse is abrogating verse and which verse is the abrogated verse, there are two different opinions, as you will see in this file that I will share with you, inshallah. This nasikh and mansukh issue shall be detailed by means of finding out which verse is abrogating which verse is the abrogated one. There is discussion about this amongst the scholars, and the majority of them, however, are united separately from Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, as we will see in this file, as you will find out in this file. And there is one more thing. Look at it, inshallah, by yourself. Let's conclude it next time. Some people say even this issue is related to misunderstanding. They say between these verses there is no any kind of contradiction. There is no even illusion of contradiction between these verses, because they refer to the Quran and say Christians and Jews cannot be considered as mushrik people. So accordingly, between وَلَا تَنْكِهُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ and وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ, there is no illusion of contradiction. This is the misconception of people who do not know who mushrik is, if the Jewish and Christians are mushriks or not. They are confused about this issue, they say. They give this idea, but this is to be criticized. This is to be corrected. This is the opinion of some of the scholars by means of referring to some of the verses of the Quran. However, we will see how this is not a correct way of refuting this illusion, how it is not right to say that Christians and Jews are not mushrik according to the teaching of the Quran. We will finalize it, inshallah ta'ala, in the next time, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, dear brothers and sisters, I have seen here one disorder in the file. I don't know how this happened. I will edit this file and then I will share it with you, inshallah, today, dear brothers. Yes, before concluding, there is a question, I think. Sister Sayyida Bilam, please go on,
Yes.
dear sister. Any question?
Yes. Assalamualaikum.
Concluding the session.
I didn't understand that part where it says the Christian and Jews.
She looks like raising her hand. If she has a question, please feel free, dear sister, ask your question. Otherwise, let's conclude today's session.
I didn't understand that part.
Complete the other parts, other ways of refuting this illusion in the next time, inshallah. Right now we are concluding today's session, dear brothers. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you next time, inshallah. As far as I see, sister does not ask question.
I didn't understand that part. Like
hear me, I don't know what the case, but I don't see the question right now. Okay. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Cezakumullahu khayran. Let me see if I can dear Sayyida, dear sister,
Yes.
do you hear me? Can
Yes,
you
I
be
do
able
hear
to
you. I do
say
hear you.
something?
I hear you.
Are you not able to unmute yourself if you are muted?
Hello? Hello?
Okay, I don't know what the problem is. Maybe there is technological issue here. Okay. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers. We have the same issues, Muhammad Muhaddin says. What do you mean you are not able to unmute yourself? Any one of you? Sister Sayyida Biram, are you able to speak right now?
Yes, I hear you.
I don't hear you. I think you're telling something, but I don't hear you. Can you say it again?
Yes, I hear you. Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
I'm surprised to see this problem for the first time, and I don't know how to avoid this. Okay, anyhow, dear brothers, maybe you will join another class. Let's end today's session. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Cezakumullahu khayran aydan.